Did you catch the ghost ship hidden in the Spotify playlist? Or the real reason the Choctaw tribe was hunting Remmick? Sinners is packed with lore that explains exactly who or what these vampires really are. Today we're exposing all the dark secrets that Ryan Coogler hid in plain sight. Let's get into it. The Choctaw Guardians. Most people walked out of Sinners talking about that insane juke joint massacre or the way Michael B. Jordan managed to have chemistry with himself. But if you were paying close attention to the first act, you noticed a group of silent, terrifying warriors who vanish as quickly as they appear. These are the Choctaw Vampire Hunters, and they are arguably the most important piece of world building in the entire film. When Remmick, played with chilling charisma by Jack O'Connell, first stumbles onto the screen, he isn't just wandering, he's being hunted. The movie shows him burned, desperate, and terrified, banging on the door of that doomed Klansman couple. But Coogler doesn't spell out who burned him. It's only when the camera lingers on the woods that we see the Choctaw warriors watching. They don't attack the house. They don't try to break in. They look at the setting sun, realize they've lost their window, and fade back into the trees. This single scene implies an entire secret history of America. It tells us that indigenous tribes have known about these leeches for centuries. They aren't just monsters to be feared. They are an invasive species that the Choctaw have been actively culling. The hunters didn't leave because they were scared. They left because they knew the rules. They understood that once the sun went down, Remmick would transform from wounded prey into an apex predator. It's a masterclass in show don't tell, establishing a shadow war that has been raging on American soil long before Smoke and Stack ever bought that sawmill. The ghost ship and the Spotify clues. Here's where things get properly detective level deep. If you just watch the movie, you know Remmick is Irish. He uses his shared history of oppression to try and gaslight the black characters into trusting him. But if you dig into the film's marketing, specifically the official Sinners Spotify playlist, there is a trail of breadcrumbs that reveals exactly how he got here. Hidden in the About section of the playlist are images of vintage newspaper clippings. These aren't just random props. They create a timeline of Remmick's bloody road trip across America. One clipping from the Boston Daily Journal in 1911 details a ghost ship drifting into the harbor with no living soul on board. Another from the Clarksdale Herald in 1924 mentions disappearances linked to a strange musician. Connecting these dots paints a horrifying picture. Remmick didn't just fly over on a plane. He likely slaughtered the entire crew of an immigrant vessel in 1911, arriving in Boston as a solitary monster. The dates suggest he has been moving south for over 20 years, slowly making his way to the Delta. Why? Because he's been hunting for a voice. The clippings imply he's been testing different communities, looking for a spiritual medium powerful enough to breach the veil between life and death. The Choctaw likely intercepted him during one of these earlier experiments, perhaps when he tried to target a tribal shaman. This backstory transforms him from a random villain into a serial killer with a decades-long specific modus operandi. He wasn't just hungry, he was on a mission. Pickled garlic and the science of Coogler's vampires. One of the coolest things about The Sinners is how it grounds its supernatural elements in the gritty reality of the 1930s South. We don't see holy water or silver crosses. Instead, the characters use what they have on hand. And the MVP of the survival strategy? Pickled garlic juice. There is a blink and you'll miss it moment where Annie, Smoke's wife and the group's resident hoodoo expert, explains the logic. She doesn't just hang garlic for the smell, she uses the brine. It's a brilliant twist on the lore because it feels practical. These people are sharecroppers and bootleggers. They understand preservation. The idea that the pickling process, which preserves life and stops decay, is anathema to vampires, who are creatures of rot and eternal stagnation, is a thematic stroke of genius. This also ties into the soul trap theory that has been circulating on Reddit. Unlike traditional vampires who are just demons in human skin, Coogler's vampires seem to retain their memories and their love, but it's twisted. When Stack is turned, he doesn't immediately become a mindless drone. He still loves his brother. He still wants to protect Mary, but his priority shifts. He wants to turn them not to kill them, but to save them from the racism and poverty of their mortal lives. The garlic and the steaks hurt them, but the real horror is that they are trapped in a state of preservation where they can never grow, never change, and never die. They are pickled people, frozen in their trauma forever. The aspect ratio of the spirit realm. We have to talk about the technical wizardry during the seance scene. When Sammy, the young musical prodigy, starts playing I Lied to You, the movie literally changes shape. The aspect ratio expands vertically, filling the IMAX screen. This isn't just to make the concert look cool, it's a visual language telling the audience that we have left the physical plane. Coogler and his cinematographer, Autumn Durald Arkapaw, use this shift to signal that Sammy's music is opening a door. The background dissolves from the dusty juke joint into a kaleidoscope of Black history. You see African dancers, 1970s funk crowds, and 1990s hip-hop heads all inhabiting the same space. This visual trick confirms what Remmick is actually after. He doesn't care about the blood, he cares about the access. He sees Sammy as a living key. The vampires are stuck in a linear, stagnant existence. They want to consume the music because it's the only thing that transcends time. The aspect ratio shift puts the audience inside Remmick's perspective for a moment. We see the infinite potential of that culture, and we understand why a soulless creature would be so desperate to possess it. It turns a musical number into a high-stakes metaphysical battleground. The tragedy of the white passing metaphor. Remmick's character is built on a fascinating and uncomfortable historical parallel. He is an Irish immigrant, someone whose people were colonized and oppressed by the British for centuries. He brings this up constantly, trying to forge an alliance with Smoke and Stack by saying, "We are the same." But the dark secret here is that Remmick represents the pathway of assimilation into whiteness. In the context of 1930s America, the Irish were just beginning to be accepted into the white power structure. Remmick weaponizes this. He empathizes with the black struggle, but he ultimately chooses to use his power to exploit it. He becomes the colonizer he once hated. This is mirrored in Mary's arc. As a light-skinned black woman, she moves between worlds, often facing resentment from her own community. When she is turned into a vampire, she is effectively given the ultimate pass. She becomes part of the elite predator class. Her tragedy is that she accepts it. The film uses vampirism as a metaphor for selling out your culture to survive. Remmick offers them a seat at the table, but the cost is that you have to eat your own people. It's a biting social commentary that hits harder than any jump scare. Smoke's final lie. The greatest night. The ending of Sinners leaves a massive question mark hanging over the audience. In the climax, we see Smoke fighting Stack. The editing implies that Smoke kills his brother to save Sammy. We see Smoke walk away, bloody and broken, before he is gunned down by the KKK. But the post-credit scene flips the table. We see Stack alive in the 1990s. He tells the elderly Sammy that Smoke spared him on the condition that he leave Sammy alone. This reveals that Smoke's final act wasn't just about violence. It was about negotiation. He made a deal with the devil. He let a vampire roam free in exchange for the future of black music. This recontextualizes Smoke's death. He didn't just die fighting racists. He died carrying the burden of a massive secret. He allowed a monster to live so that the culture could survive. It makes Smoke a much more complex hero. He compromised. He realized he couldn't kill the past Stack, so he bargained with it to ensure the future Sammy. That line from Stack, "It was the greatest night of my life because it was the last time I saw my brother," is heartbreaking because it confirms that the love remained even after the humanity was gone. The Buddy Guy connection. Finally, we have to give flowers to the casting of Buddy Guy as the elderly Sammy. This isn't just a celebrity cameo, it is the thesis statement of the movie. Buddy Guy is the real deal, a bridge between the Delta blues and the rock and roll explosion that followed. By having Buddy Guy play the character who refused immortality, Coogler is saying that the true legacy isn't about living forever, it's about what you leave behind. Remmick and Stack are frozen in time, wearing outdated clothes, stuck in a loop of hunger. Sammy has aged, he has wrinkles, he is frail, but he has lived. He created art that changed the world. The secret here is that the vampires are actually the jealous ones. They have eternal life, but they have no life. Sammy has mortality, but his music is immortal. The casting of a real-life legend cements this idea. You can kill the man, but you can't kill the blues. It's a defiant middle finger to the concept of vampirism itself. With Stack and Mary still out there in the 90s, the door is wide open. Are there other clans of vampires from different cultures? Did the Choctaw Hunters ever catch up with Remmick? The lore is too rich to leave here. And let's be real, seeing a sequel where Vampire Stack tries to run a record label in 1990s Los Angeles is the movie I didn't know I needed until right now. So did you spot the Ghost Ship article, or were you too busy hiding behind your popcorn? And seriously, does Smoke letting Stack live make him a better brother or a worse hero? hero? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the movies you love.